Setting the Table, The Transforming Power of Hospitality in Business by Danny Meyer. Picture this scene. It's a packed Friday night in New York City. The restaurant's alive with energy, plates clattering, conversations buzzing. You're the owner, juggling 1,000 things at once when you spot him. A drunk customer weaving through the dining room, bellowing about wanting a baked potato. After a brutally long day, something inside you just snaps. You confront him. He gets in your face. You get in his. Before you know it, you're literally dancing chest to chest across the dining room floor, and as you reach the front door, his fist comes flying at your jaw. So what happens next? If you're a young Danny Meyer, you punch him back. Hard. And when he lunges at you again, you wind up and deliver a kick that, well, let's just say he won't be asking for that baked potato anymore. Now, this isn't exactly the heartwarming tale you'd expect from a book about hospitality, right? It's raw, messy, and painfully human. And that's precisely what makes Setting the Table by Danny Meyer so captivating. This isn't some polished corporate playbook written from a corner office. It's a story forged in the crucible of real experience, full of spectacular failures, hard-won victories, and profound insights earned in one of the world's most unforgiving industries. Danny Meyer created Union Square Hospitality Group, the powerhouse behind some of New York's most iconic restaurants, Union Square Cafe, Gramercy Tavern, and the global sensation Shake Shack. But here's the thing. This book isn't about fancy recipes or interior design. It's about a revolutionary idea that transformed an entire industry and has the power to transform your life too. The idea? That business, and really life itself, isn't about what you sell. It's about how you make people feel. Over the next while, I'm going to share the secret philosophy that enabled a young man, haunted by his father's business disasters, to build an empire founded on trust and loyalty. You'll discover the critical difference between service and hospitality, a distinction so powerful it'll change how you view every interaction. You'll learn about the 51% solution for building exceptional teams and a brilliantly simple management approach called constant, gentle pressure. By the time we're done, you won't just understand Danny Meyer's success, you'll have the keys to a more generous, effective, and fulfilling way of moving through the world. So grab a seat, and let's set the table. Danny Meyer's story doesn't begin with a brilliant business plan or a flash of entrepreneurial genius. It starts with something more fundamental, an almost instinctual fascination with food, and the stories woven around it. Growing up in St. Louis, young Danny was endlessly curious. He'd trade sandwiches at lunch, not because the other kids had better food, but because each lunch was a window into someone else's world. Was their family a Miracle Whip household, or did they swear by Hellmann's? For Danny, these weren't trivial details. They were clues to culture, tradition, and what made families tick. But this love affair with food played out against a darker backdrop of financial anxiety. Danny had 3 powerful male role models, each representing a radically different approach to business. There was his maternal grandfather, Irving Harris, an analytical, disciplined titan who built a fortune through smart bets on people and systems. Then there was his father, Morton Meyer, brilliant, magnetic, and tragically flawed. Morty was a riverboat gambler, brimming with incredible ideas, but lacking the discipline to execute them. He built a thriving travel agency, only to watch it crumble into bankruptcy. He dove headfirst into the hotel business in Italy, only to have it drain him financially and emotionally. Twice during Danny's childhood, he watched his hero, his father, have to sit the family down and confess that he'd failed. Those scars ran deep. Danny developed an intense fear of repeating his father's mistakes, especially the cardinal sin of expanding too fast. He became cautious, risk-averse, determined to build something lasting. As a young man, he drifted. He'd worked as a salesman, but knew that catching shoplifters wasn't his calling. He was on the verge of taking the law school entrance exam, preparing for a political career he didn't actually want. The night before the test, over dinner with his aunt and uncle, he confessed his uncertainty. His uncle looked at him, exasperated, and said something that changed everything. "Why don't you just do what you've been thinking about your whole life? Since you were a kid, all you've ever talked about is food and restaurants. Why don't you just open a restaurant?" The words hit him like lightning. The next morning, he took the test completely relaxed, then never applied to a single law school. He was off and running. But Danny knew he couldn't be his father. He needed a different foundation. That foundation came from family trips to Europe, where they'd stay in small, family-run inns. The welcome felt warm and loving, the food exceptional. It was during those trips that he had a revelation that would shape his entire career. The hug that came with the food made it taste even better. This simple insight became the bedrock of his business philosophy. He came to understand there's a massive difference between service and hospitality, and this might be the most important distinction in the entire book. Service, he explains, is the technical delivery of a product. It's a monologue. It's getting the right food to the right person at the right temperature at the right time. It's efficient, correct, and can be executed flawlessly without an ounce of soul. Hospitality, on the other hand, is a dialogue. It's about how the delivery of that product makes someone feel. It's about making people sense that you're on their side. Meyer distills it beautifully, using two simple prepositions: for and to. Hospitality is present when something happens for you. It vanishes when something happens to you. Think about it. When a host rushes you to your table, that table is happening to you. When a host walks with you, engages you warmly, makes you feel welcomed, that table is happening for you. Armed with his philosophy, he opened Union Square Cafe in 1985 in a rundown, forgotten corner of New York City. The early days were chaotic. The kitchen was cramped, the menu overambitious, and on opening night, 2 parties walked out because their food never materialized. Danny was obsessed with filling every seat, but his desperation for volume created kitchen logjams that brought service to a grinding halt. He was making 1,000 mistakes a day. But learning to handle those mistakes became his gateway to mastery. He tells a story about meeting Stanley Marcus, founder of Neiman Marcus. Danny was confessing his terror, convinced that opening his second restaurant was the worst decision he'd ever made. Stanley looked at him and said something profound: "The road to success is paved with mistakes well handled." That became another pillar of Meyer's philosophy. Mistakes are inevitable. Perfection isn't the goal. Becoming masterful at fixing things is. He sees his staff not as servers, but as surfers. Waves are like mistakes. You can't stop them from rolling in, but you can learn to ride them with grace and style. He developed a systematic approach for handling mistakes, which he calls the 5 A's. First, awareness. You need to know a mistake happened. Second, acknowledgement. Own it completely. Tell the guest, "I'm so sorry this happened to you." No excuses, no deflection. Third, apology. Sincere and genuine. Fourth, action. Tell them what you'll do to fix it, and do it quickly. And fifth, additional generosity. Go beyond fixing the problem with something extra to thank them for being good sports. Maybe a complimentary dessert, a glass of wine, or sometimes even comping the entire meal. The objective is to write a great last chapter. You can't erase the mistake, but you control how the story ends. He shares an amazing story about Senator Bob Kerrey finding a beetle in his salad at one of the restaurants. The next day, when the senator was dining at another Meyer restaurant, Danny sent him a beautiful complimentary salad. Garnishing it was a tiny slip of paper with one word: Ringo. The accompanying note read, "Danny wanted to make sure you knew that Gramercy Tavern wasn't the only one of his restaurants willing to garnish your salad with a beetle." Now Senator Kerrey couldn't tell the beetle story without also telling the incredible follow-up. The mistake became legendary. As his empire grew, Danny realized he couldn't be everywhere at once. He couldn't personally greet every guest or fix every problem. He needed systems. This led to his 2 most powerful leadership frameworks, the 51% solution and enlightened hospitality. The 51% solution is his hiring philosophy. He believes that technical skills account for only 49% of what makes a great employee. The other 51%, the majority, is made up of innate emotional skills. You can teach someone to carry a tray or open wine properly, but you can't teach someone to be genuinely warm, optimistic, and caring. He says you must hire for that 51% first. He identifies 5 core emotional skills that define a 51%er. 1. Optimistic warmth, genuine kindness, and a glass-half-full mentality. 2. Intelligence, not just book smarts, but insatiable curiosity and love of learning. 3. Work ethic, a natural drive to do things as well as they can possibly be done. 4. Empathy, the ability to tune into how others are feeling. 5. Self-awareness and integrity, knowing who you are and naturally doing the right thing. Fill your team with 51%ers, he says, because kind people want to work with other kind people. This creates a self-recruiting, self-sustaining culture of excellence. This people-first approach is central to his grand theory, enlightened hospitality. Here's where he completely flips conventional business wisdom on its head. Most companies prioritize stakeholders in this order: investors first, then customers, then employees. Meyer argues this is a recipe for short-term gains and long-term disaster. His model prioritizes 5 stakeholders in a very specific order. First, and most important, are the employees. The only way to consistently delight guests is to first ensure your team is happy, motivated, and cared for. Second are the guests. Happy employees naturally create amazing experiences for customers. Third is the community. Businesses have a responsibility to invest in the neighborhoods that support them. A rising tide lifts all boats. Fourth are the suppliers. Treat vendors as partners with respect and integrity, and they'll go the extra mile. And fifth, last in line, are the investors. This sounds insane to most business people. Why put the money people last? Because, Meyer argues, if you take exceptional care of the first 4 groups, if you have a thrilled team creating raves for guests, building a vibrant community, and working with loyal suppliers, the investors will be rewarded with profits that aren't just handsome, but sustainable. It's a virtuous cycle that starts with caring for your people first. But how do you actually lead those people? Meyer's management philosophy is something he calls constant, gentle pressure. He learned it from a gruff old steakhouse owner named Pat Setta, who taught him the salt shaker theory. Imagine a salt shaker perfectly centered on a table. That center represents your standard of excellence. Setta told him, your staff and guests are always moving your salt shaker off center. That's their job. It's life's job. It's the law of entropy. Your job is simply to move it back each time. That's constant, gentle pressure. Constant. You never stop caring. Excellence is a journey, not a destination. Gentle. You correct with dignity. You coach and teach. You don't humiliate. Pressure. You're relentless about standards. You keep moving that salt shaker back to center. This elegant metaphor guides how he leads thousands of employees, keeping everyone aligned with a shared vision of excellence. To gather the information needed to apply this pressure, Meyer uses a technique he calls turning over the rocks. He learned it from a fly fishing guide who explained that to know which fly to use, you need to turn over rocks in the stream to see what insects are actually hatching. For Meyer, the dining room is his stream. He's constantly turning over rocks, hunting for details, a guest checking their watch, an untouched dish, a curious expression. Each detail is a dot of information. His motto for managers is A, B, C, D. Always be collecting dots. The more dots you collect, the more meaningful connections you can make. He tells an incredible story about a late-night dinner party with famous journalists, including Tom Brokaw and Johnny Apple. Around 1 a.m., Meyer joked that if they stayed much longer, he'd have to serve scrambled eggs. Johnny Apple replied, "But I bet you've never had eggs, Daffodil." Meyer had no clue what that was. But instead of letting the moment pass, he saw it as a dot. He told his team, "Go online, figure out what eggs daffodil are, and get a bowl on that table by 2 o'clock." They found a vague description, and the chef improvised something beautiful. When the eggs arrived in a copper pot, the table was stunned. Years later, Tom Brokaw was still telling that story. They didn't just serve a meal. They created a legend by collecting and connecting a dot. This relentless drive to create legends is powered by a question Meyer asks before launching any venture. Who ever wrote the rule? Who ever wrote the rule that fine dining has to be stuffy and formal? That led to Gramercy Tavern, a rustic tavern with 3-star food. Who ever wrote the rule that you can't create a classic burger stand in New York City where nobody drives? That led to Shake Shack. This question is his innovation engine. It's about taking something familiar, putting it in fresh context, challenging the status quo, and adding something new to the conversation. From a single chaotic restaurant born from a young man's fear and passion, Danny Meyer built an empire. But it's an empire constructed not on spreadsheets and cost-cutting, but on hugs and salt shakers, on 5As and 51%ers. It's a testament to a simple, radical belief that in business, as in life, the greatest success comes from putting other people first. When you finish a book like Setting the Table, you realize you haven't just absorbed business advice. You've been handed a blueprint for a better way of moving through the world. The most profound lesson, for me, is the beautifully countercultural idea that the path to success is paved with generosity. In a world that constantly screams at us to look out for, number one, to protect ourselves, to win at all costs, Danny Meyer offers something radically different. He demonstrates that by putting your employees first, you empower them to create incredible experiences for customers. By creating those experiences, you build loyal followings that sustain your business. By investing in your community, you create an environment where everyone thrives. It's a virtuous cycle that stands in stark contrast to the fear-based, scarcity mindset driving so many organizations. What's truly powerful is that this philosophy isn't reserved for restaurateurs or CEOs. It's for everyone. The principles of hospitality can be applied anywhere, in classrooms, on sports teams, at your own family dinner table. It's a choice to see every interaction not as a transaction, but as an opportunity for genuine human connection. So how can you start applying this in your own life, starting today? Here are a few practical ideas. First, practice the 51% solution on yourself. Next time you join a club, team, or start a summer job, don't just focus on being the most skilled person in the room. Focus on being the warmest, most curious, most empathetic. Be the person with the strongest work ethic. Be the teammate who shows up early, stays late, and always asks, "How can I help?" You'll find that people are drawn to that energy, and your technical skills will grow exponentially faster in an environment of trust and goodwill. Second, start collecting dots. Make it your mission to be more curious about people around you. Don't just make small talk. Ask real questions. Where are they from? What lights them up? What's a story they love telling? Listen for those little details, those dots of information. Then look for opportunities to connect them. You might not be serving eggs daffodil to a news anchor, but you could introduce two friends who share a passion for old movies, or remember a colleague's favorite coffee order. These small acts of connection are the building blocks of strong relationships. And third, reframe how you handle your next mistake. We all mess up. The natural instinct is to get defensive, make excuses, or hide. Instead, try the 5As. Be first to notice it. Acknowledge it openly. Offer a sincere apology. Explain what action you'll take to fix it. And then, if possible, offer some additional generosity. Maybe that's staying late to help a teammate you let down, or doing an extra chore at home after forgetting something. You'll be amazed how quickly you can transform a moment of failure into a moment of trust. That was a summary of Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. We've covered the big ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a photograph of a wonderful meal. You can see what's there, but you can't experience the taste, the aroma, the feeling of actually being at the table. The real magic of this book lives in the stories, the details, and the genuine heart that radiates from every page. This summary is your invitation to the meal. If anything we've discussed has sparked your curiosity or resonated with your own ambitions, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a business philosophy. It's about discovering a way to make your own life, and the lives of those around you, richer and more meaningful. There's a link to the book in the description below. And if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another world-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.